Good morning and welcome to Emma's Faith Diaries. I was thinking about this all day yesterday actually. Do you ever think to yourself how corrupt the world is? And is there anybody that hears the Holy Spirit maybe the way you do, or like reads their Bible and hears interpretation the way you do? And there is a lot of godly people, even like on YouTube, and godly people that I go to church with. But I still think out of all the billions of people in the world, like, is there really a lot of people that are like Holy Spirit filled? I'm not talking about just Christians. I'm talking about like crazy people like Elijah and Elisha and Moses, and people that really had like that one-on-one relationship with God. And I was thinking about this, and that was fine. I was at work yesterday and I went for a lunchtime walk, as I do most days if it's not raining in Northern Ireland. And as I was going down the waterway, there's like a walkway down by the waterway where I work, and there's a couple of times I've seen this man power hosing the pathway. It's a public pathway, and the council have obviously paid for him to go ahead and tidy it up, and he's taken all the dirt off, all the graffiti off, and it looks really clean and tidy, and that's great. In the past 2 weeks or so, I've been walking by him, and on my uniform, of course, it has my name, and he was quite forward, and he said to me, "Well, good afternoon, Nurse Emma." And I went, like, I don't know this man. And I was like, "Oh, hello." It was like I didn't know what to say. And he said, "It's on your uniform." I says, "Look, good afternoon." And then as I was up in work, there's the health centre I work in looks down over this walkway, and I would see him power hosing. It's been going on for weeks now. And the past couple of days he's been hello and walking by, and in a way I've been watching him, but in a way he has also, I believe, been attracted to talk to me. So that was fine. And I went out yesterday in my boldness, I was like, I just want to get this walk done. I like to listen to music and do the walk and spend some time just listen to what God has to say and things. Anyway, I seen him and I thought, oh, not today. Tried to keep my head down and walked on. I don't like to be kept back. I've only got a half hour for the walk. And of course he seen me. He was in the fan this time. He wasn't out. He was sitting in the fan having his break. And I caught his eye and I thought, don't be rude, Emma. And I waved and I said, hello. And his window was down. He says, what about you? And I noticed he had a real country accent. And anyway, I didn't walk by. I wasn't rude. Although everything with him, he was like, just walk by. I got talking to him and he said something like, I was talking to him about his health, and he says, well, sure, I don't have any worries about dying. And I thought, well, that's good. And I thought not many people say that. Usually people do worry about dying and what's going to happen. And he said, sure, we're only here for a short time anyway. And he said something else, and I said, yes. And I put my hands up and says, only for the grace of God. And he went, hey girl, isn't it great that we're only flesh bodies, but we really should be in the spirit. This is temporary, this world. And he started talking all about like spiritual stuff, and about how his neighbour was like, she had the gift of healing, and people would go to her and she would pray for them and all these sorts of things. And he gave me her number and things like that. And he was like, go see her, go meet her. And he says, I have wonderful conversations with her about God and how he speaks to you. And could see that this man was actually very spirit-filled. And then it clicked on me, that's why he kept talking to me, because whenever you have a familiar spirit, in the Holy Spirit, and people be attracted, and before you know it, you're talking about God. And that was fine, and I came away and didn't get my walk done. Went back into work. I was drenched, it was raining by then. I went back and I thought about it, and I thought, Lord, you're hilarious, because there are still spirit-filled people that I don't know, but you'll recognise them. God talks about in the Bible about being the salt of the earth. Jesus does talk about the salt of the earth and being the light that doesn't get hidden, and it emanates off you. And you will know people by the fruit of their spirit and their behaviours and their character. And this just proved that to me yesterday. There are still godly people, godly spirit-filled people that hear the Spirit. And then when I went home and I thought about it, it reminded me of the scriptures of Elijah. And he went on his huff and went into the cave. And God says to him, what are you doing, Elijah? And Elijah's having a meltdown. And he says, but Lord, you made me go to these people, and they're trying to kill me now, and there's nobody left. There's nobody left that believes in you. And God says, no, Elijah, there's 7,000. I believe it was 7,000 people that haven't bowed the knee to Baal. Go. Get up, Elijah. There's still the remnant. And God's been speaking a lot to me about the remnant. God will always keep a remnant of those people that are spirit-filled. They're all around. You don't even realise they're power hosing graffiti off a wall. There's still spirit-filled people. I just thought that was lovely, God showing that, and how He brought that back to my remembrance about Elijah. And I suppose we can be like this. We're like, Lord, this is a terrible world. I don't watch the news, and I don't watch a lot of things like on social media or anything like that. I don't know whether I'm being ignorant and don't want to know what's going on around the world, but there's not a lot of positive stuff, and I just trust God that He's in control, so I don't really worry about that. And God hasn't told me to get involved with looking at that and trying to understand all of that sort of stuff. So I don't look at it, and I suppose if there's people out there and they're thinking this world's gone to pot, and no one can be saved, and God should just come back now because the people that know, and it's not really the way it works. God always keeps a remnant. There's always people to come into His flock. He'll always keep a remnant. There are true spirit-filled Christians out there that believe in the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ and His Holy Spirit that remains on the earth. So don't think for 1 minute that God's not in control. God's in control. Always in control. Go and look at those verses. I think it's definitely in Kings. I don't know whether it's in 1 Kings or 2 Kings. It could be chapter 7. I think that rings a bell. Where Elijah is speaking to God, and he goes up to, God tells him to go out into the desert, into barren land, and that's where God walks by in the cave, and he's having his hissy fit about there's no people. He's still saying that today. There's a remnant. Ezekiel 12, there's a remnant. Ezekiel 14, there's a remnant. Talks about it in Revelation, there's a remnant. Over and over again, God talks about a remnant. He will always have people here on earth that are Holy Spirit led and believe everything in the Bible. Don't you ever think for 1 minute that there's not. God is always in control. I just thought we'd share that in case people are like doom scrolling and you're like, what's going on here? Take heart. God's in control, and He always has His remnant.